It happened on our third wedding anniversary. We were at Outback Steakhouse. Nothing fancy, but it was where we had our first date. So it felt right. My parents were there, her sister, and two of our closest couple friends. Everyone was laughing, swapping stories, and enjoying blooming onions and steak. Then, out of nowhere, my wife dropped a bomb that killed the whole mood. She said, "My ex-husband will always have access to me through the kids. That's just how it is. If anyone has a problem with that, including my current husband, they can leave." The whole table went silent. My dad froze mid-toast, glass still in the air. Her sister's mouth fell open. Even our friends suddenly found their plates very interesting. All eyes turned to me. Everyone waited to see what I'd do. Would I explode? Would I argue? Would I try to smooth things over like usual? Instead, I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Okay, good luck." I stood up, set down my napkin, dropped enough cash to cover the entire bill, and walked out. No shouting. No drama, just clarity. Let me back up a bit. My wife has 2 kids from her previous marriage, 8 and 10 years old. Great kids. I've always treated them like my own. Their dad lives 20 minutes away, and for years we had a solid co-parenting system. Pickups, holidays, school events. Pretty standard stuff. But lately, something changed. Calls at odd hours. Last-minute plan changes that always worked around his convenience, not ours. Family decisions that somehow needed his input before mine. I started noticing patterns, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. Until that night. Our anniversary dinner, in front of both families. That's when she decided to tell everyone that her ex-husband would always have access to her, and that if I didn't like it, I could leave. So, I did. By the time I reached my truck, my phone was already blowing up. Calls, texts, messages from family and friends. But I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt clear. My wife had just told the world exactly where her loyalty stood, and I believed her. That night, I sat in my garage for hours, sorting tools, replaying everything in my head. 3 years of marriage, and she chose our anniversary dinner to draw a line in the sand. Not in private, not in counseling, but in front of everyone. By 10 p.m., I knew what I had to do. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. Some things said in public can't be taken back. She'd made her declaration. Now I was going to make mine. Around midnight, she came home. She probably expected to find me furious or begging to talk. Instead, she found me sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a manila folder. "We need to talk," she said. "No," I replied, sliding the folder toward her. "We don't," she frowned. "What is this?" "Divorce papers," I said. "I'll be filing first thing Monday morning." Her face went pale. "You can't be serious. You're ending our marriage over something I said when I was emotional?" I laughed softly. "Emotional? You made a calculated announcement to both our families about your priorities. That wasn't emotion. That was clarity." She tried to backtrack. "I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted everyone to understand that the kids come first." "The kids weren't the issue," I said. "You know that." I opened the folder. Inside were printed emails, texts, screenshots, 6 months of quiet documentation, every late-night call with her ex. Every family decision that required his input. Every time she canceled our plans because he needed something, her eyes widened. "You've been spying on me?" "No," I said calmly. "I've been protecting myself." I turned another page. "Here's a text thread where you discussed our vacation plans with him before talking to me. And here's an email asking his opinion on what car we should buy." She tried to grab the papers. I pulled them back. "Or how about last month when you asked him if it was okay for us to have dinner with my parents on his weekend, even though the kids were staying with us?" "I was just being considerate," she said weakly. "To him?" I replied. "At the expense of your actual husband." I leaned back in my chair. "Last night wasn't a mistake. It was you finally saying out loud what's been true for months. He has more say in our marriage than I do." She started crying. Not new. I'd seen those tears before, every time she was caught doing something she couldn't explain away. "This is ridiculous," she said. "I'm not having an affair. We're just co-parenting." "I never said you were having an affair," I replied, pouring another cup of coffee. "Though it's interesting that your mind went there first." Her voice trembled. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've been married to 2 men, I said quietly. And I'm done being the second one. She said nothing, so I asked her straight out. When something important happens, who do you call first? Silence. When you make decisions that affect our home, who do you check with before telling me? More silence. That's what I thought, I said. Now everyone knows where I stand, and because you made it public, she whispered. The kids need stability. They need to see that their parents can work together. No, I said. They need to see boundaries. They need to see respect. What they've seen is their stepfather treated like a tenant in his own house. I stood up. That ends now. You're throwing away 3 years of marriage over this, she cried. I'm not throwing away anything, I said. You threw it away last night. I'm just accepting the reality you announced. I grabbed my keys. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. You can explain to the kids why Daddy moved out right after Mommy said her ex comes first. She grabbed my arm. Please don't do this. We can fix it. I'll change. I gently pulled away. You told everyone that anyone with a problem could leave, I said softly. Well, I'm leaving. Just like you suggested. The drive to the hotel was peaceful. No calls from her ex, no drama. Just quiet. For the first time in months, I felt like I could finally breathe. By morning, I'd already called an attorney. Some decisions are complicated. This one wasn't. The next morning, my phone was already buzzing before I even woke up. Calls, texts, voicemails from her sister, even my mom. Everyone wanted to know why I'd walked out. But honestly, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. By noon, I was sitting in my lawyer's office. He was an older guy, calm, methodical, the kind of man who's seen every kind of breakup imaginable. After I explained everything, he nodded slowly and said, Sounds like she made your decision for you. That hit harder than I expected, because he was right. I wasn't divorcing her out of anger. I was divorcing her out of respect for myself. I'd been patient, understanding, even accommodating. But somewhere along the line, I became a background character in my own marriage. That night at the restaurant, she just said it out loud. A few days later, she showed up at my hotel. No makeup, hair a mess, tears in her eyes. She knocked on my door until I opened it. Please, she said, her voice shaking. Can we talk? I stepped aside. You've got 10 minutes. She came in, holding a box of photos, mementos, little things from our life together. I can't believe you're actually doing this, she said. I thought you were just trying to scare me. I sighed. If I wanted to scare you, I would have shouted. I didn't. I left. That's not anger, and that's acceptance. She sat down on the bed and stared at the floor. You know I love you, right? I nodded. Yeah, maybe you do. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's chaos. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. I didn't mean what I said that night. I was just trying to make a point to my sister. I raised an eyebrow. Your sister? You humiliated me in front of everyone to prove a point to your sister? She nodded miserably. I couldn't help but laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. You turned our anniversary into a public power play, I said quietly. And now you want sympathy because it didn't go the way you planned? She started crying again. That's when the guilt started creeping in. Not because I regretted leaving, but because I realized how far gone we really were. She didn't even understand why I was done. To her, it was about damage control. To me, it was about dignity. The divorce process moved fast, maybe because she realized I wasn't bluffing, or maybe because deep down she knew she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. She tried to negotiate. She tried to say we could work through it for the kids, but every time she said that phrase, for the kids, I heard what she really meant. For her ex, for keeping him comfortable, for keeping the old dynamic alive. And I wasn't going to live in that shadow anymore. 3 weeks later, the papers were signed. No court drama, no ugly fights, just silence. When I handed her the pen to sign, she hesitated. Is there really nothing left to say? She whispered. I looked her straight in the eye. There's plenty left to say, I told her. But none of it will change what's already been said. She signed. And just like that, 3 years of marriage ended with a single stroke of ink. A month later, she texted me out of the blue. The kids miss you. They keep asking where you are. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Tell them I miss them too, but they'll be okay. They need to see that love doesn't mean accepting disrespect. She didn't respond. I thought that was the end, but it wasn't. A few weeks later, I ran into her ex-husband, the man who had been the unspoken third person in our marriage. It was at a hardware store, of all places. He spotted me first. Walked over with that smug, self-satisfied grin I'd seen too many times before. "Didn't think you'd actually go through with it," he said. I looked him dead in the eye. "Neither did she," he chuckled. "Guess she realized I'll always be part of her life." I took a deep breath. "Yeah, that's the sad part. She could have had peace, but she chose to keep living in your shadow." He smirked. "You sound jealous." I smiled. "No, I sound free." Then I grabbed what I came for, paid at the counter, and walked out, leaving him standing there, still trying to figure out why his victory didn't feel like one. That night, I sat on my porch with a drink in my hand, watching the sunset. No phone buzzing. No tension, no chaos. Just quiet. For the first time in years, I realized something powerful. Peace doesn't always come from fixing what's broken. Sometimes it comes from walking away before you break yourself. 6 months. That's how long it took for the dust to finally settle. No angry calls. No urgent texts. No awkward run-ins, just silence. I'd moved into a small house on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but peaceful. I built new routines, made coffee without rushing, worked out more, started sleeping better. It's funny how you don't realize how heavy something is until you finally set it down. Then one Saturday morning, I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey, it's me. Can we talk, please?" I knew that tone. I knew it too well. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. We met at a small diner we used to visit every Sunday after church. When I walked in, she was already there, hair tied back, fidgeting with a napkin, eyes red. "Thanks for coming," she said quietly. I nodded and sat down. "Neither of us touched the menus. I wanted to apologize," she began, "for everything. For that night, for what I said, for how I made you feel. I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. I've been seeing a therapist," she continued, "and I realized I never actually left my past behind. I kept trying to make two worlds fit into one, and I destroyed both." She wiped her eyes. "The kids miss you," she said softly. "They ask about you all the time. You were good to them, better than I deserved." I took a breath. "That's kind of you to say," I replied. "But you don't owe me an apology for loving your kids. I'll always care about them. But you and I, we're done." She looked up, eyes full of hope that turned into pain. "I just thought maybe we could start over," she said. "No exes, no drama, no outsiders. Just us." I shook my head slowly. "You can't rebuild a house on the same cracked foundation," I said. "You've got to tear it down and build a new one. But that's something you'll have to do on your own." Her lip trembled. "So that's it?" I nodded. "That's it." We sat in silence for a long time. Then she whispered, "You know, he's dating someone new now." I smiled faintly. "Good for him. Maybe that's what you both needed." She looked at me, confused. "You don't care?" I met her gaze. I stopped competing the day I realized I was the only one in the race. We left the diner without a hug, without a goodbye. Just two people who used to share a life, walking in different directions. When I got home, I stood in my garage, the same place I'd stood that night after walking out, same smell of sawdust, same shelves of tools. But this time the air felt lighter. That night I got another message from her sister. "I just wanted to say, you did the right thing. She needed to lose you to realize what she had." I didn't reply. Some messages don't need a response. Months passed. Life moved on. And somewhere in that quiet stretch of time, I found something I didn't expect. Peace. Not the kind you fake on social media. Real peace. The kind that comes when you stop trying to be someone's second choice. Now, when people ask me if I'd ever take her back, I tell them this. When someone shows you where you stand, believe them. The first time. Because second chances are for mistakes, not for patterns. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's self-respect. And sometimes silence is the loudest way to say, I deserve better.